extraordinary experience in dealing with research and then translating that research into real things that Americans can make. Now, the great manufacturing center of America is represented here by Mr. Altimire. Thank you for joining us, and share with us your thoughts as we look at the President's budget and on making it in America.
I thank the gentleman from California and my friend from New York, Mr. Tonko, and we have a discussion going now about manufacturing in America, and our colleagues understand the relationship that exists between manufacturing and R&D, research and development. And it's critical that we look at those together, because the discussion that we're having in this country about why over the past several decades we've lost so much in manufacturing, we've lost our core manufacturing businesses. I come from western Pennsylvania. We have seen the steel industry over the past several years. Although there is a resurgence today, it's been many, many years since we lost a lot of that steel industry that we had in western Pennsylvania, and it was the core base of employment for generations in the Pittsburgh area. And across the country, we've seen our manufacturing industry decimated by foreign competition. And the reason R&D relates to this, as the gentleman certainly knows, is it's a continuum. And at first, when America lost its manufacturing lead to other countries, we still kept the innovation, we still kept the R&D. But the continuum that exists between someone in America coming up with an idea, an invention, turning that through R&D into a real product, a real innovation. We have always been the leaders in that in America. Americans have led the way with innovation, with creation, with technology, and then turning that into the manufacturing sector, turning that towards product development, manufacturing, exportation to other countries, creating a base of people who are going to use that product. The whole continuum is something that we have seen over the last several years through foreign competition. We've lost our lead in a lot of those things. And because of our failure to invest in research and development, because of our failure to keep up with the foreign competition, we've lost even more than just the manufacturing sector. We've lost our competitive edge on the innovation side as well. And that's why it's so critical, even in the times that we face now, severe fiscal restraint, a recession that we are finally recovering from, we have to continue to make that investment in R&D, because, as the gentleman from New York said, if we don't do it, other countries will, and they are. And if we expect to compete in a global economy, if we expect to get back our lead in manufacturing, which we are starting to do, it has to begin at that first stage of innovation, of research and development, creating new products, leading to new ways of manufacturing, more cost-efficient ways of manufacturing. And we're going to be able to do it, and we're starting to see the resurgence in America specifically because we understand that continuum that exists. And it would be a tragedy for workers in this country to begin moving in the other direction. So I thank the gentleman for his leadership, and would turn it back over.
Thank you, Mr. Altimire, and thank you for the work that you've done in western Pennsylvania. Indeed, at one time, I know when I was growing up, it was the center of the American steel industry and manufacturing there and to the immediate west in Ohio and Indiana and on. I want to put up this chart because it really demonstrates the challenge that we face and the opportunity that we have. This chart speaks of the 12 years with 6 million American manufacturing jobs lost. Way back, let's go back about 20, 25 years ago, there were just under 20 million manufacturing jobs in America. And over the years, it was up and down with a slight decrease. And then beginning around the year 2000, we began to see a precipitous decline. Basically, the outsourcing of American jobs, the great manufacturing heart and heartbeat of America just began to slow down to a rhythm where now we have down to just over 11 million manufacturing jobs. This is our work. This right here, this decline is the challenge that this House faces. And when you start with what the President has suggested, you start with R&D, because that's the genesis. That's where the new ideas and the new products are developed. And then you have to couple that with manufacturing. I want to give just two examples from my own district, one that I learned this last weekend when I was back home in the Sacramento Valley, just west of Sacramento, a university town, University of California, Davis, About 10 years ago, some graduate students at the engineering campus, or the engineering school there at the University of California, Davis, figured out a new program, a new way to do advanced manufacturing. They were in the machine tools, and they figured out a way to take machine tools and make them far more productive and innovative and capable of doing some really different things. They took that idea. These were the entrepreneurs that you talked about, Mr. Tonko. They took that idea and they started a small business. And in the intervening years, they began to grow. They now employ 75 people in the Sacramento region for the development of these advanced machine tools. A company in Japan took a look at this and said, oh, we want to do that. They were in this business. And so they bought the company, and they thought about taking the company back to Japan. No, didn't happen. Instead, they decided to build that manufacturing facility in Davis, California. That factory is now being constructed, and it will soon employ 100 people. So here you have an example of where research out of the University of California, Davis Engineering School led to the creation of a new business in the machine tool industry, and the continuation of research and development and advancement, and now manufacturing taking place in California. There are a couple of other pieces of public policy that fit into this continuum of development of economic growth. And they were policies that were put forth by the House of Representatives when the Democrats controlled the House. And it was this: for any company that wanted to make a capital investment, they could immediately write off that total investment in the first year. Rather than depreciating that investment over 7, 10, 15 years, they were able to take advantage of it. A very, very powerful incentive to make it in America, to build your manufacturing facility in America. And so this company, DTL, is now growing in California as a result of the research at the university, coming out, entrepreneurs taking the ideas, building a business, and now investments, in this case, by a foreign company into the United States. We call that insourcing. I'll come up to the other example a little later. Mr. Tonko, take it from there.
Hey, Representative Garamendi, thank you for that lead-in, and certainly Representative Altimire talked about the need for us to invest in manufacturing. When you look at that precipitous drop, losing the many millions of manufacturing jobs, perhaps the largest loss of manufacturing jobs in world history, it's up there. It ranks very high. Why? Well, policy, tax policy that encouraged taking jobs offshore and investing in other nations. We were rewarding that behavior. What we're talking about now is turning that around, doing this U-turn, putting the brakes on a process, on an incentive that really was destroying hope for American workers. And so now what we see is a new vision of providing incentives for those who will build opportunity in this nation. And then also, I think when we look at some of the focus that existed or didn't exist over the past decade and a half, you look at where we were going as a nation, and the focus wasn't on agriculture, it was not on manufacturing, but it was on service sector, and primarily on the financial service sector. Now, we know that scenario. We won't go down that road. Suffice it to say, we turned our back and said, here's the keys, play as you wish. And no watchdog in the equation, and people created vehicles by which to circumvent regulation. And so we put at risk the nation's economy. Every family that invested into their future was put at risk. So we ignored manufacturing.
Mr. Tonko,
yes, sir.
Excuse me, may I interrupt you for a moment?
Absolutely.
You mentioned something that we actually talked about last week, and I want to hand you this chart.